started a new year, and last week's chat, we chatted about how to start strong, and I thought that it would be great for us to maybe just cover some of the things that we've realized as our years start that have been repetitive errors. And one of the things is homeschool moms tend to compare what they're doing with what other homeschool moms are doing, what they are doing in comparison to schools, even, just within the home. Comparison can, in some ways, when it's in a positive light, cause growth. But when it's a consistent, ongoing, I'm not doing enough, I'm comparing yourself to apples to bananas instead of apples to apples, that moms can actually start tripping and stumbling. So let's chat a little bit about that, and you can jump in with your first thoughts.
Yeah, I think we always compare ourselves to other people when we're feeling inadequate, and we're trying to find some way to measure if we're doing enough. And we always say that question, am I doing enough, is what we call the disease of the homeschool mom. So I think the solution is to know that you're equipped to do the best for your family, and if you're being diligent, then you shouldn't compare. But it is very difficult because homeschooling is new, and so how do you measure if you're doing enough? And just to lighten up the conversation this week, somebody was sort of asking this kind of thing on a social media group, and I said, if it feels like you're doing way too little and you look at what your kids are doing and they look way too relaxed and chilled, you're probably on the right track. So I think, and I say that because we tend to always try and do too much. So yeah, that's my first thought.
Yeah, I think that's true. We, back in the day, 30 odd years ago when we all started, and we used to have a lot of need for support. And I think support groups, while they're much more organized now by suburb and everything, I remember in our Johannesburg days, we used to pull people from as far as an hour and a half away. And the topic used to always come up, exactly as you say, am I doing enough? And I think that it's also important to remember when we're talking about the comparing between apples and bananas, is that there were stages even in our relationship where you still had lots of little babies. I had moved on and you were still having little ones. And it would be completely unfair of you to compare your stage of life and what we were doing with older children when still trying to juggle a newborn or a toddler. And the other thing that I did notice in support groups is that the moms who were feeling uncertain about themselves were the ones that often spoke too much about what they were doing with their children, which in turn then has that knock-on effect for everybody else. They're like, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough. And it was this weird dynamic that was going on. So I think support groups, while they're great, can also be a place where a mom can have those inadequacies fed. What are your thoughts about handling a support group wisely?
Well, I think that whenever you are discussing what you're doing, if you do fall into that trap where you are comparing, to always ask yourself, like, what is different between our family and theirs? So, for instance, some people have domestic help a certain number of days of the week. That lightens the load for a mother. Some have older children that can either work independently or take turns distracting a busy toddler who's disrupting what the mom's trying to do with a younger child. And so like you say, it's apples and pears, and you can't compare your family with a different family that's got other factors. Everybody's circumstances are unique. And so you've just got to bear that in mind. And then the other thing is that we all go through different seasons. So there's some times where you have capacity to add additional subjects and topics and outings and arts and crafts. And then there are other times where you just have to scale back and keep things narrow and just do what you can to cope with whatever season you're in right now. And that's fine. Wherever you are now, is not necessarily how it will always be.
Yeah, I agree. And the last thing I thought I'd just touch on was a conversation that I had many, many years ago with a new homeschooling mom. And her son was not at all inclined to any form of art or craft. And the nice thing with art and craft is that at the end of the project, you've got something to stick on your wall or stick on your fridge, you know, and everybody can see it. And she would go into her friend's home, whose daughter was just like lived for that stuff. And the kitchen would be full of all the little projects that they had done. And she used to feel incredibly inadequate as a homeschool mom, because she just didn't have these things to show. And yet her son eventually went on to being a musical genius, writing his own musical score and all that sort of thing. And it's so important for us to realize that each child has their own particular bent and their own particular gifting. And our job is not to try and make them into somebody else's child. Our job is to grow our child in the best possible way and provide that environment for them to flourish. And if we keep on, you know, second guessing ourselves and trying to create a false environment, we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot and doing our children a disservice. So really the encouragement would be to look at your child and your particular state that your family is in, and blossom. You know, there's a beautiful, I came across it years ago when I was starting my veggie gardening, bloom where you are planted. And for each family and each child and each mother to bloom in their situation that they find themselves in. So I think that's about it. Yeah. And then just to say for our listeners is that on the 18th, 19th and 20th of January, we've got a 3-day live stream, or 3 sessions over 3 days. Our first day is going to be this kind of stuff, getting started, feeling positive. We've actually called it a positive start. Day 2, we're going to take a look at our footprints programs. And again, Lenny Lewis will be with us to discuss Voetspore, our new one. And then on the last day, we've got 3 veteran homeschool moms joining us to just chat through some stuff. And it's going to be handled in an informal question and answer. So if you'd like that, I'm going to pop the link down below for the Quicket booking. And yeah, we'll see them then. So lovely chatting, Shirley. Cheers.